Hello fine people of the internet, welcome back to what I'm sure is a most anticipated video. How long has it been? Like a year and 4 months? It's quite the hiatus, isn't it? As I'm sure all 5 of you are wondering, yes, this is a new format. I cannot use the resources so kindly provided to me forever, so I've become a 2D drawing man. Just look at my apparent lack of Z-axis. How fun! So the game I'm talking about today, Undertale, was a hit indie game from 2015. And side note, Jesus Christ, that was 6 years ago. I'm sure it needs no introduction, so I won't bore you with it all. Instead, let me tell you a story. When I was a whippersnapper, I was browsing the YouTubes. Not 1 year before had I subscribed to a man called Markiplier. Once he started his Undertale Let's Play, I was enamoured by the quirky new indie game. So much so that when he didn't finish it, I was heartbroken. With a heavy heart, I went to Jacksepticeye's playthrough, and that was that. So that's how I found Undertale. Over the years I started to resent it more and more, mostly because of the fandom and its associated toxicity. I was content on hating it until recently, when a little indie game took over Twitter and made me reconsider the hatred. So now, after all these years, let's see if I really do like the story of Undertale. So you start out on the floor surrounded by some friggin' sweet flowers, and then you walk into another room with another flower, and you get to make friends with it. Flowey is so nice, he even offers to shoot you, and of course, you oblige, since bullets are really fun for the whole family. Unfortunately, Goat Narc Toriel comes along to stop your illegal arms deal and take you away to become her surrogate child. She tells you all about puzzles in the ruins and that you should be nice to monsters you find until she can come along and ward them off. Should you choose not to be nice, you'll be taken along a very different route indeed, which I will not be using footage from in this video because I'm lazy. You listen to the crazy old goat lady say she doesn't eat your flesh or some shit and play nice with the monsters. These early game monsters aren't shit. I'm sure that's bound to change though. The battles are similar in setup to Earthbound. You only see the monsters in front of you as you're seeing the game from the character's perspective. When you enter a fight, you have the option to fight, act, item, or spare. If you're feeling mean, you can assault the enemy, but most of the time it's easier to find an action that will pacify the foe. Once you've made your foe love you enough, their name will turn yellow, indicating it's time to spare. You'll likely have to play Toho a bit before you're able to spare, since figuring out what pacifies a new monster can take a bit of time. After some great chill time with your new mum, she leaves to run some errands. In the meantime, you can wander through the ruins all by yourself, just like a big person. There are many deadly foes like frogs, crying flies, and VeggieTales. I hate VeggieTales, always preaching to me about Jesus. Don't they know I already have my one true saviour? Printed out picture of an avocado to pray to. Anyway, after not much hardship, you find a spectre vibing on the floor. They pretend to be asleep, but you still engage them in combat. The rather woeful Napster pluck attacks by crying at you. After cheering them up a little, they pull off a rather fancy party trick and leave, telling you they only come to the ruins to get away from people. Toby Fox really made a mood of a character here, huh fellow kids? All the way throughout the ruins and beyond, you'll find quirky writing and witty dialogue. This is probably Undertale's strongest suit. The writing is delightful without ever becoming grating or tiresome in the pursuit of laughs, and it knows when to reel its neck in too. Such as at the end of the ruins. After moving in with Toriel, she senses your unrest and runs to the basement to attend to something. You follow her and find the exit to the ruins. Behind that door is the rest of the expansive underground and your way home. All that stands between you and a chance at normalcy is a big old goat. What follows is a very emotional standoff where you slowly convince her to let you go. Even though she claims it's a fight, she won't hurt you enough to cause a game over. After a hell of a lot of sparing, she'll let you pass, and you go through the one-way door to the rest of the game. If you were to have entered a very specific name and activated hard mode, this would be where your hard journey ends, as Toby was far too lazy to make the whole game hard. I personally did not do this because I do not hate myself. Outside the door is a snowy forest. How does it snow underground? Don't question it. Whilst making your way through the dense spruce forest, a mysterious shadow engages you. You all already know this is Sans, the game's resident funny man. He makes you hide behind a lamp so we can talk to the game's resident Tumblr sexy man, Papyrus. He talks about his aspirations and Sans makes shitty jokes. You know the dynamic. The area of Snowdin is rather quaint and cozy feeling, really invoking winter. There are many puzzles here, set up by the self-proclaimed Great Papyrus. Sometimes they're even hard. I can't see a Naughtal Cross without a passionate rage boiling up inside me, let me tell you. There are many dog-themed enemies here. Presumably they followed the bone scent here. They have some blue attacks. If you remain still, they can't hurt you. Think of a blue stop sign and then pretend this bit is original and I'm not stealing from Sans. Guys, I don't think I could be funnier than Sans, I'm sorry. In Snowdin Town, you meet a lot of very cool people like Rabbit and Man Who Is Flame. They tell you that the boners, pan pending, are relatively new to town and that they really spiced up life. I don't really know where they came from. That's for the theorists to decide. All I know is that you can pay 80G for a room in the inn and then sleep for like 2 minutes. Zabio is a master of micro-sleep. Unfortunately, this chipper mood is unable to last, as we must inevitably head east and face off against the greatest adversary of all, a really annoying intrusive ice filter thingy. Oh, and Bone Boy Papyrus. Papyrus's attacks miss a lot. They're all too low down, so the fight is very easy. All you have to do is flirt with him until his name turns yellow. Except that's not it. Sans warned you about his special attack a lot up until this point. Turns out his attack isn't blue, you are. This is one of the best parts of Undertale in my opinion. Some enemies can change the colour of your soul, which changes the fight entirely. Pappy here made you blue, which makes you control like a platformer rather than a bullet hell. All those attacks Papyrus was missing are now guaranteed to hit you if you can't time your jumps right. After a rather tense fight, Papyrus is convinced to spare you. You can now head to the next area. I, of course, didn't do this. I had to go on my date with Papyrus. He's so dreamy. Pappy takes you on a sweet date to his room where you can date him. There's charts and stuff, I don't fully understand it, but maybe one day I will. He gives us a surprise spaghetti. It's incredibly romantic. Unfortunately, the feelings I feel for him are not reciprocated, so we agree to just be friends. I get his number though, and will definitely call him frequently because I really like doing his voice. After the date, you head east, and then you can get a lore dump from Sans if you feel so inclined. It would appear a certain flower is whispering sweet nothings to our baby boy Papyrus. With that, we head into the next area, the waterfall. The waterfall is a very calming area. It's got a very muted colour palette, all blues and blacks with a rare splash of colour. This area is full of lush plants too, and soon you find yourself hidden in some big ass Pokemon grass as Papyrus talks to a mysterious armoured figure. Your future friend, Monster Kid, reveals this figure to be Undyne, the head of the Royal Guard and the woman tasked with bringing your shining human soul back to Asgore. The game makes it very clear we're meant to fear Undyne. We only see her in her bulky armour in heavily shaded areas, always leaving half the sprites coated in darkness. She's a very looming presence. It's an incredibly effective way of building atmosphere. Atmosphere is a big theme of Waterfall. You almost never get wacky music or bombastic set pieces. The enemies keep their charm though. Oh Woshua, how I love you so. This isn't to say there aren't any. I'm sure you all know about Tem Village, the wackiest area in the whole game. Yes, I did pay for Tem to go to college, but I did not buy the armour. I wouldn't say that's my favourite though. I'm a big fan of the Mad Dummy fight, since they just yell at you and get shot by their own bullets. Is it cruel and unusual to have them shoot themselves? Maybe. Do I care? Not particularly. Towards the end of the waterfall, you meet Monster Kid on a bridge. They tell you that Undyne wants you dead, and that means they need to hate you too. They cannot follow through though, and you save them from falling to their death. Then you face off against Undyne, who takes off her helmet and starts cackling like a maniac. Could be serious for too long, Toby. Undyne can turn you green. This prevents you from leaving the battle and makes you play a little minigame where arrows fly at you and you need to block them. I am not very good at it. You can't spare Undyne, she's too determined to bring you to the king. You have to make a break for the entries of Hotland. Papyrus calls you during this, which is just peachy. Once you make it to the water cooler, she collapses, too hot from her bulky armour. You then have the option to give her some water. Naturally, I did this because I am a good person and I'd hate to see a fish out of water. After this, you get the option to hang out with Undyne on Papyrus's suggestion. It goes well, but she's incredibly high energy and may or may not set fire to her own house. She goes to chill with Papyrus and you make your way to Hotland. Hotland is fun. The nice solemn atmosphere of the waterfall is gone, replaced with a rather foreboding soundtrack. You meet the royal scientist Alphys here. Also, sex machine murder maniac Metaton. He's so dreamy. Toby makes a lot of dreamy dreamboats. There's a quiz and then some puzzles, it's pretty standard stuff. I got killed for the first time by some gay knights, so that was pretty progressive. Hotland is pretty short, all things considered. The only notable sequence is of Metatron trying his best to kill you. Good old Alphys is always one step ahead of him though. The next boss is great though. Her name is Muffet and she's a spider. I know she's a boss because she gets to change the colour of your soul. When you're purple, you can't escape and you can only move along one of 3 lines. Muffet is actually a character put into the game at the request of a Kickstarter contributor and is, to my knowledge, the only reward character that's mandatory. She says she was paid to kill you. A fun little meta thing there. One of the many spiders she commands tells you what her next attack is and you can bribe her to take it a little easier on you. If you had donated to the spider bake sale back in the ruins, after she attempts to feed you to her pet, a spider will come and give her a telegram and you'll be free to go. Thus concludes Hotland with a nice Metaton dance and a final attempted murder. Then we find Metaton's hotel and find out Toby ships Soriel. This is disgusting. Sans should be dating me, not a goat. There's some goofing to be done in the hotel, but I'm lazy and went straight into the core. The core is also a short area with Alphys messing around with some puzzles. Then you find Metaton in a room. He locks the doors and reveals that Alphys was just trying to insert herself into your story like a bad fanfic writer. Then he really tries to kill you. He was acting the whole time, and your shooting gun doesn't even hurt him. Then you flip a switch and it turns him sexier. Ultimately, this fight is about driving up the viewership until Metaton takes viewer calls. Then he realises he can't murder you and leave the underground because the underground needs him too much. This is very sweet, but then his batteries die. It's meant to be dramatic, but he can very much just charge. You head towards King Asgore's throne room, and Alphys so kindly informs you that you will have to kill him. He will not give up on this goal. With that bombshell, you head through to the new home, where some monsters decide to tell you a sad story that you all already know, so I won't bore you with it. Then you meet the funny Bone Man again, and he tells you that EXP and levels are bad, actually. Gee willikers, I sure am glad I didn't get any. You pass him and go to the throne room to meet Mr. Fluffykins. He's nice and you follow him to the barrier. He says, "Nice to meet you, goodbye," then fucking nukes the mercy button. This battle is tense and most certainly a difficult one. I did not die. When I said foreshadowing, I meant it. This route is not hard. The fight is certainly hard though. I was very tense the whole time and am frankly surprised I didn't die. Once Asgore is brought to his knees by a fucking child, you spare him. This allows him to see the error of his ways, and he talks about having you live with him and his wife in the castle, as a family. finale. Before you can even ruminate on this thought, the fucking flower bastard kills Asgore and fucking absorbs all the souls. Then the game closes and you look like a moron on stream as you open it back up to find a flowery save file. There's some dialogue I can't recall, and then a fucking Photoshop monstrosity comes to fuck your shit up something royal. This fight is also one of the hardest imaginable. I did not die. When I said foreshadowing, I meant it. This route is not hard. Fucking hell though, this thing's attacks are mental. You literally stand no chance. Thankfully those souls get their own attack phases too, and in each one you get a chance to call out for help, in which case they heal you. This happens 6 times before you can start hitting Photoshop Flowey. You get him to the brink of death, avoiding his attacks and save state shenanigans. Then he loads a third file where he's at full health. He then kills you over and over and over and over. It's kind of gratuitous to be honest, bro. Until he stops and taunts you with 1 health. Then the souls revolt and destroy him, and you get the option to kill Flowey or spare him. Sparing Flowey confuses him, but he eventually runs away. Then you can leave. Sans calls you and tells you about the goings on, and that is the end of Undertale. Except you know this isn't where it ends. Flowey pops up at the end to tell you about an even better ending, and all you have to do is go back to Alfie's lab. This is indeed the end of a neutral run, and theoretically you can end here, but we all know no real gamer would do that. Below Alfie's fun lab is the scary true lab where she shoved a bunch of dying monsters full of determination to see what happens. What happens is they melt into amalgamates and give you a bunch of hasslers who try to calm them down. One killed me, so that's gay knights and a dog blob that can kill me, but not the king or a Photoshop abomination. The area tells you the log entries that Alphys was trying to give monsters the power of a human soul to break the barrier. It did not go well. It's very moody and dark feeling with a couple moments of brevity, which is a lovely addition to the game. It's rather short too, like every part of Hotland. Then it railroads you into the last part of the game where some stuff happens and all the monsters flood the room and then Flowey vors them. This allows him to be even more powerful than before, becoming his true form, Goat Baby. This fight is intense, with flashing colours and blaring triumphant music. Some of his attacks are really hard to dodge too, like the star one with a bunch of after images. I even died here, but your soul refuses to die, and you keep going on as before. When I said foreshadowing, I meant it. This route is not hard. Eventually, he absorbs the whole stinking underground and becomes the god of hyperdeath, and you use your epic save powers to make the whole underground like you again. This makes him feel, and there's some lovey-dovey rambling before we find out that we are not Zabio, we are Frisk. Zabio was the name of the first human that fell into the underground, and apparently everybody's been projecting them onto you. But now you tell Azrael your name, and everybody he absorbed knows it too. Azrael destroys the lane barrier and then goes away, leaving you to say goodbye to everyone in the underground before you leave with your friends. Not killing everyone paid off, huh? Sure was a fun route. It'd be a shame if we were to go kill everyone for fun. Nah, who would be that demented? The story is pretty simple but a hell of a lot of fun, and Toby hides the lore in there real good. The gameplay makes it one of the RPGs I can actually get into as well.
Wow, a YouTube reviewer that doesn't like RPGs? How original.
If I wanted to read, I'd get a book. I will be trying out other RPGs, I'm sure though. Maybe I'll even review the next big Toby project. The characters too, my god, they're good. Even if they're relatively shallow, the interactions absolutely make the game. No one will ever make a character as good as Papyrus again. I think that's all I have to say on the game. I'd hate to overstay my welcome. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to do all the good stuff I usually ask you to do, and tune in next time. Who knows, maybe it won't even be a year this time.